Questions? We've breezed over a lot today. Just know, I end with this, that Sarah and I are here, of course Dr. Couch as well, and any of your colleagues in the room that are open to that are helpful for you too. We'll use the group me. If you have a question or if there's a concern, certainly send it via that venue, or you can email us or drop by the office. Sarah and I both are in Allie Young Hall, so we're easily accessible on campus. Are there any final questions as we wrap up?
I have a final little thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Xavier.
Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody that in the Blackboard course, this is what you'll see. And at the very top of your list, above this line, is going to say information for instructors. You want to click on that, the very first thing when you get in here, and look at what you should do first. Okay, that's going to have a description of everything that you need to do to prepare for class before the class begins. And the very top of that is to replace the syllabus. Now this gives you detailed instructions on what you need to change, but you can also, when you click start here, which is where the syllabus is located, when you open the syllabus, you'll see things outlined in yellow. And those are the things that you need to change. You can leave it yellow if you want to, but I don't recommend it. It tells you exactly what you need. Now, can you see how embarrassing this would be if your students were to open this up and say insert name? How are you going to ask your students to turn their work in on time when you did? So remember to do that. Last thing I want to say about this is something that we've been discussing during the day. Is I've added a couple of new things. And each week, at the very bottom, you're going to have a resource getting involved with student organizations on eagle-link. This is a link to all of the student organizations on campus. It's going to allow them to get involved with other people. And it shows every one of them. You can also reorganize them by category. You can search organizations if you have a particular topic. And the description just basically says it ranges anywhere between your sporting events, sporting teams, and special interests.
And that's on each week.
Yes. And also on each week, you're going to see at the very bottom what's happening this week. And this will take them to the events calendar, which will show the weekly events. Right now it doesn't show anything, but it is the same link in every instance. So whenever you click the link, that's going to dictate what page you land on. But there's also the ability to switch weeks or particular times. It's a good idea to remind your students of both of those things, at least for the first few weeks, so that they remember that that is there, so they can access it at any time. Because they're going to want to get involved with it on campus, to make friends, to make community. They're also going to want to know what things they can do to make that happen. Last thing is the Eagle Chase. I did have the QR code, so when you're going over this in class, you can just literally read that bottom line, scan the QR code above with your camera to use your smartphone to do this. If they're accessing from their smartphone already and not on a computer, they can just click the link. But if they're accessing from a PC or from your PC, from your presentation, you can just take a picture of the QR code just like we did today. That's all.
Questions?
Thank you, Michelle. So we've talked about when the students get COVID. When we get COVID, what do you recommend we do? We
That's
try to
an
find a
excellent
sub,
question.
we do it online, what do you want?
That's an excellent question. I would recommend, if you have a colleague that is also in this room, that would be your best line of defense. Some of us have multiple colleagues that are teaching. In your case, you don't necessarily, but that's the first line of defense. Second, if you don't, reach out to Sarah or me, or you can send a group me post and say, I'm not going to be available for Thursday's class. Is there anyone who could potentially cover? And that way, if somebody responds yes, then you could reach out to them and tell them specifics that you would want them to cover in class. You also have the option, and this is only if you're comfortable, but if your peer leader is one that you have gotten them involved, then they might certainly be able to cover that day if it's on the spot. I would never put your student in a position where they're covering the content or expected to really be in the role that you're supposed to play. But if you're in a pinch, then your peer leader may potentially be able to cover that session for that day. The question is too, should I cancel? If you cannot find someone else to cover, preferably another professional, then you know, you might need to cancel class. But try to avoid that if you can, and find an alternative or a substitute who can assist. And then, you know, the student could help too if you're in a pinch, if you trust that peer leader.
I do have one more thing to go over.
Okay.
This is actually the most common sticking point for many instructors. Now, the PowerPoint presentations are at the top of every page, every one of the weekly modules. But you may have noticed whenever I was clicking this, it's going to ask you to log in again and verify again, so be prepared for that. But the sticking point is it opens up in the browser, which is fine until you come upon one with a video. Now, there may be, depending on the browser you're using, it isn't doing it on this, but if you're using Internet Explorer or Edge, it's going to prompt you and say there's external content on this page, do you want to allow? Just choose yes, and that's going to allow. If you don't, when you click this, nothing's going to happen. So it's working for me, but if I was on Internet Explorer, probably wouldn't. But in case that happens, there's two options you can do. One, you can copy that URL, paste it into the browser, there you go. Next is to, instead of opening it here, you can open it up in PowerPoint immediately by either right-clicking and saving link as, and that'll save it to wherever you want it to be, or you can come over and click editing, open a desktop app, and then you can present it just like it was a local file. If I don't have to sign anything. Dave, will you find out if this is how this is going to work for labs? And yeah, that could be a problem.
That is a problem.
All right, so just know you can copy and paste that link, and that will solve most of the problems that you encounter.
And the Blackboard page for the students won't be live until the first day of class,
Correct.
unless you enable it early.
Yes, you can enable it early if it's available, but you have your stuff in there already. But by default, we in the Blackboard office will switch everything on around between 8 and 9 on the first day of class. So it will be Tuesday the 16th, am I right?
Monday.
Monday, we do this here? Yeah, 15th.
Any questions for Xavier? Okay. Laura has brought some, got planners. I couldn't think of the word. So there's some up here. Laura, do you have enough again for every student, or what was your approach this year?
Yeah, we're gonna give them out at new student days, and then you can just send those that don't have them